Hi everyone, and welcome to our guild ship, looking out into the wild blue yonder. I wanted to interrupt briefly the Duergar, or it's Dwergar, isn't it? As one of you quite rightly said. I've heard how they pronounce it on the new expansion, and that's why I wanted to interrupt the Dwergar series because I felt it might be nice to show some of you who haven't yet picked up the pack some of the little bits and pieces, as well as discuss some of the more interesting things to come out of the um, latest update, the update 81. One of which is I'd forgotten to re-enable my mantle after having done some changes. Let's start, seeing as I'm on the caster here. You'll remember this is my caster druid purple. He's dedicated to that build, and he's the one we've been using to illustrate the effects of some of the caster changes. If you recall, the first caster pass, the effect was negligible for most people, if anything. I think I ended up with 2 on evocation DC and nothing on anything else. It just it was basically a wash. So I was hoping for a bit more this time around, and I wasn't disappointed. So just to go quickly through the defeats that have changed, if you haven't seen it, we've got, let's have a look here. That's the biggie. Legendary spell focus. You can take that from level, oh, it tells you there requires level 30. So from 30 onwards, you're able to take that. That's 3 on all spell schools. So that's a must for basically for any caster, more or less. Really, really good. Especially for people like us who are dabbling in different schools. I mean, granted, the Cold Druid is 95% evocation, maybe even more than that. But we do have 2 spells that we rely on quite heavily, which are not evocation. We've got an illusion there and a transmutation here. So 3 legendary spell focus is massive. Now the epic spell focus has been redone. You might recall, if you've struggled with DCs in the past, that used to be just 1+1 on a select school. So in my case, it was +1 evocation epic bonus. That's now +2 on all spell schools. So that's a very compelling pick as well. Now, I was probably being silly and not choosing Wellspring at 21, but that's now a real challenge to selecting Wellspring at that level, I think. Again, really nice to have. And then in Heroic, there's also been a change. All of the greater, if I can find the buggers. Come on, where is it? There we go. It had to be at the bottom, didn't it? All of the greater spell focus are now +2 on that specific school. So long story short, we've ended up with 5 extra on our main school and 5 on the off schools as well. So that's been a much bigger effect. That's assuming that we take the legendary spell focus mastery, which honestly, as a caster, you'd be silly not to. And all, of course, going to 36, which this character now is, you get granted an extra feat anyway for that. So it fits nicely into there. I think you can take that at 36 as well, can't you? 30, 33, 36, yeah. So that's just perfect. 5 more. So where has it left us? It's left us in the high 120s, I think, on Reaper. I think we're up over 125. So that tells me, given that this isn't the best for DCs, it tells me that the bards and the wizards of this world, who've been sort of super sweaty in acquiring the DCs, probably mid to high 130s, maybe even 140 area now, I would guess. Especially those who are making use of the arcane, what's it called? The thing, 30 seconds of +6 extra on the DCs. It's let me just try and find it. Save my blushes. Something to do with this arcane insight. That's it. So yeah, we're moving in the right direction, and it is noticeable now. Whereas the first change, well, it was close to nothing. I'm under the impression that I am seeing some results. I've tried it in some of the higher level content, and there's not as much just marching through the CC as there was in the past. So I it does feel a little bit better to me at least. And regardless of your build, any or all of you are going to get 5 DC on all schools. Just pick up that legendary spell focus thing, and well, presuming you've also got the epic one, which I think now, even if you didn't in the past, now it's well worth it. Definitely well worth it. uh, what else was I going to mention? Yeah, while we're in the epic destinies, obviously you get another 8 points to spend. Now, honestly, here, well, I have managed to add some half decent things. I've added him this core here, and so that's more spell power and a heal when he does the wings, which is quite often. We've got some more spell power from that, a bit more healing amp, which is never a bad thing. And I wish this was either reflex or fortitude, but no fail will save, especially given how high our will save is. It's not terrible, but broadly speaking, the things that would um, be nasty for a will save, I think you've got freedom of movement covering most, and the what's the other one? Protection from evil. The paladin or cleric spell covers the other stuff, the compulsion type stuff, I think. But yeah, it's so it's got to the stage now where really, aside from picking meta magic reductions, I've had to lose that one there, which I'm a bit upset about. The intensify doesn't cost spell points anymore, but I just managed to squeeze in this one and that one. Those were the two I had my eyes on. Aside from picking up cost reduction, we're kind of done now. Any more points coming, and it's just kind of filler. So I'm guessing that the people on the completionist builds who started off in the 80s points, maybe 80 low 80s, they're going to be 90 plus now, and they're going to be well into the stage where there's not too much else. I suppose you just pick trees where you invest loads of stuff in, like I think the Fury. Um, is it the Fury? The one with the quick cutter in? I think that's Fury, isn't it? Yeah. I think typically people who are using that as the main tree would put 40 or more points in there. So maybe it opens up some more interesting choices build wise for people. But yeah, we've got into a good place now with this caster. More than happy at that. Of course, we get an extra point on wisdom, so that led to another casting DC for reaching 36. So not terrible at all. We could have a look while we're talking feats at the other feats that have been added. I just want to show you this teleport thing. This is one of the little toys that they give you for getting the big pack. I treated myself to the big pack again this time around, on the using the logic that it cost me many more times than that to take my dog to the vet and have something done. And it's a game that I've enjoyed for many years, so I figured why not. Now this, let me just, it's there, it goes as a feat, teleportation style. I think this is going to be a new thing now with some of the new content. You might recall the cosmetic feats were initiated with the Year of the Dragon, some of the rewards, these steps and the wings and the teleport things go in there as well. You just you acquire it from the in the Hall of Heroes, the pack NPC. There's one relating to each pack in there, isn't there? And you just say, I want the teleport style. It appears in here. You drag it onto there, toggle it on, and then every time you teleport, you get this funky little animation that pops up, like you're dropping through the door. I think it's quite good. He just gives a last minute salute and then drops into the abyss. So I'm pretty well enamored with that. I quite like for somebody who's fairly averse to cosmetics. I quite like that, I must say. So we're just going to use Fred to show us and discuss quickly some of the new feats that have been added if you haven't kept abreast of that. Right, so I wish I could just see the legendary stuff here. Right, that's one. Okay, that's the big one for the melees. You've got strength of arms available from 20 and legendary strength of arms from 30. And these are gonna end up giving, you've got to be in combat because you can see they last for 10 seconds only. It's not like these rage based temporary hit points that you can preload and take into combat with you. These only trigger when you're in combat. But I haven't experimented yet with them, but I am pretty sure that most, if not all, melee are going to end up taking this because it's going to be a massive boost to survivability. A small spoiler, we are going to run into the problem because the Durgar series is recorded before this update 81 came out, and we're going to run into this exact problem at the cap, and you're going to see just to what extent it causes us trouble with not having any heal or source of temp hit points. So these things, especially on the non-ragey builds, which generally would really struggle to, like the fighter just limited to the amount of second wins you've got and that kind of thing. Well, suddenly now everybody, I had a guildmate who had a rogue, and they made it completely without heal, no temp hit points, no heal, no nothing. It was relying on avoidance, I guess, as most rogues do. But once it did get hit, like with damage over time or things like that, it was just a sitting duck. Whereas with a layer of defense built up with stuff like this, as long as you keep hitting, you keep these things going. And the legendary one is, this one is your melee power. So let's say, what would you have? I think a bog standard. Well, what did I have? I think I wasn't particularly great at the cap with the Durgar, but I ended up with slightly under 300, which for a melee is low. But even so, let's call it 300 for the sake of argument. So a shield, so we'd have 300 temporary hit points every time this thing triggered, and stacks twice, so 600. And then if you put the legendary one on top of that, I think we can see that as well in here somewhere. Can't we? Oh, maybe because I haven't actually taken the, I think it's this one is the prerequisite for the legendary one, I think. Yeah, that makes sense. So we don't see it. So I think the legendary one is twice melee power, so that would be 600, and I think that stacks 3 times. So that would be 18 plus the 600 from this, that 24, 2,400, and that's a conservative estimate because as a melee at the cap, you're very likely to have more than 300 melee power. So huge bonus to melee defense. I won't talk any more about this because I'll my barbarian character is down doing some Durgar lives at the moment. You'll see him in a minute. He's going to be the one to show us the new area. But I'm going to put these two on him and then maybe do a little demo of how much of an effect it has. I planned other things for him as well. You might have heard me mention in the past about defenses. One of the big things you can do for defenses as a melee is go in the macro tree and have that as your main destiny with the mantle. That's a huge boost to defense. So I've decided we're going to try that this next time around. But let's not digress too much. So the strength of arms, the big one for the melees. There's there are feats, epic feats relating now to both precision and power attack. Obviously, the two offensive stances for melee and ranged. Just epic precision just adds more fort bypass and an extra 5% on your to hit. And the power attack's a bit more disappointing. I think it's just another 5 on damage, or 10 if you're having a two-handed weapon. But as some people in the forum have pointed out, even the uprated bulwark of defense, which now gives 10 melee power, is very likely better than that power attack. So that one is underwhelming. But this strength of arms is going to be huge. I can't see many, if any, melee not taking that for the defense it provides. The less healing options you have, the more likely you are to take this. And not least of which, because unlike the other stuff that you've got to really mess about, haven't you? Rage on, rage off, maybe swap weapon as well to trigger your blood feast filigree, get the 10 hit points there. Maybe the weapon doesn't swap properly and you're left in a bit of a mess, or maybe the weapon stays swapped and you're left with a suboptimal weapon. But this thing, strength of arms, it's always there in the background working away to preserve your life. Can't not like that. So we've covered the caster thing. We've covered the. I think there's some fairly bog standard stuff. I'm surprised they didn't do more legendary stuff. There's a legendary sneak attack, just 3 more sneak attack dice on the proviso that you've got the epic one. I think there's a legendary version of the monk's extra 1W for weapon damage. And then we've got these piercing feats, which now mean that any caster can. There are 2 types. These can be taken in heroic, I think, can't they? Does it tell me when they can be taken? These? No, but I think they can be taken in heroic. And it's single target only, I think, these. And then you've got the AoE version, which I think is takeable in epic. But they can make. They've got all the basic elements in there. Things like I think Pale Master in the past have had trouble with resistances to negative, that kind of thing. So you're able to just tap the opponent now and immediately make it vulnerable to your element, like a clay golem if you're acid based, that kind of thing. I know people are still a little bit miffed that it's going to cost 2 feats, but better 2 feats to have something that works than to be wandering around with no plan B and completely stuck on a boss that's immune or worse still healed by your element. So I think that was something that's been looked at for a long time. People have said on the back of that, well, why don't you just remove immunities and things altogether if you're giving everybody ways to get around them? And I don't know. I don't know where I sit with that kind of thing. I guess I've been very lucky because more by luck than judgment, my main caster has always been the druid caster, and he obviously gets around the immunities very nicely. But I did start off life on the caster trail as a warlock. Now they do have issues. They don't have, or they haven't until now, had ways to break the immunity. So I had certainly issues with my pact damage. I was often having to toggle the pact off when I ran into clay golems and that kind of thing. So for these kinds of classes, I think it could be a good investment. Is there anything else interesting that I have missed? I don't think so. No, I think we'll leave the feats there. We've covered the caster thing. Right. I think we're going to... Oh, just quickly. Now, Brian mentioned this already. We were talking about hirelings. Now, particularly if you've already got the ones from Mythdrana, the Rana, to most people, myself included, these are like the yardstick. These are the... Oh, we can't do it in public. I mean, they have the healing thing. They have a res. I think this one has true sight as well. It can give you. So really good. If you've got that one and you were considering buying the new pack just for the hireling, then I'd say don't, because this one is terrific anyway. Far be it from me to say that about a hireling, but it's the best you're gonna get. So no, it would be overkill to buy the new pack just for the hireling. But if you don't have the Mythdrana one, these are very good too. You've got a heal, and it's quite a nice one because it's a sort of an AoE spores type thing, which hurts the opponents and heals you. And you've also got obviously the res and freedom of movement, which especially if you don't have that on your gear, or you don't have the little bottle that people can get from the mysterious remnants, then that could be a nice way to get that. And both the heroic and legendary version have that freedom of movement. Right, I think we're going to change now to the aforementioned Duergar. That's probably the first time I've ever pronounced it almost correctly. Now he's on the ship and he's going to show you a little bit of the adjustment to canith crafting. If you didn't know, they have made some nice convenience changes to the canith crafting. If I can just get in here. And they've also expanded the max level from 400 to 500. I can't remember what level I am, 361, so I could potentially boost up towards 400, but be careful. Once you've exhausted doing the minimum level 36 standard shards, I'm led to believe you're into the realms of using purified dragon shards then, which could quickly get pretty expensive. On the plus side, that means that things like any kinds of tomes put on the auction house are liable to attract a decent sum of astral shards. So there is that. Right, I just want to show you. So, terrible grind in the past. Now we want to dissolve items. First thing we notice, no dissolver needed anymore. Secondly, the game has already picked out all the appropriate items. There's no no arrows or consumable potions or anything in there. The only thing it's picked out is the things that are able to be dissolved. Next thing we notice, all we do is double click everything. They pile up in the window at the bottom, just like we were going to sell something to a vendor. That's how this is now. Compared to how it was in the past, brilliant. And just hit dissolve. You could, if you preferred, as you picked things up, just highlight it as junk, and then it would add all the junk together and then just hit dissolve, whichever you prefer. But that to me is infinitely better. Now, of course, we are paying platinum to do that, but it's not that bad, especially if you're playing at the cap. It really isn't that bad. We're paying platinum rather than I think did you get platinum in the past for? I can't remember. I think some people are a bit upset that there is a platinum cost, but the game does need some more platinum sinks, at least in my opinion. So if that was a small sink, I don't think too many would complain. Also, if you do happen to be short of platinum, now would be the time to make these Canith essences and get them sold either on the Shard Exchange or the auction house, because now more than any time, people are going to be racing to get their Canith crafting levels up, because you know what people are like. Gotta have it now. Can't wait till tomorrow. Must have. So if you have some going spare and don't think you really need them and are short of either shards or platinum, get them thrown on the auction house. See what you can get for them. I bet especially in terms of platinum, I bet you could get quite a lot. So I can't see that being an issue. So yeah, dead simple. And of course you can just sell off as before the other little bits and pieces from your adventurings that cannot be turned into Canith essence. Make back a little bit of the platinum we've just spent on dissolving. So infinitely more convenient done this way, at least in my opinion. Right. So we're going to go quickly to the new area, Greven Hollow. For those of you who don't have the big pack or who are looking at just getting the basic one, the entrance to this chain is in Evening Star. It's marked as one of these green stars to the north of the Evening Star public area. The first thing I'm going to mention in here is that you're able, for the first time ever, if you didn't know, to do the wilderness on Reaper. You can go up to Reaper 10, but there's no practical reason for doing so. The Reaper 1 is the highest realistically that you should do, because that scales the Slayer kills, I think, up 75%, and also you have more chance of getting nice loot in chests. And I think the experience on the rare kills is boosted as well when you do Reaper. And aside from anything else, it just makes the encounters feel a little bit more meaningful. You actually bother to trigger a few defenses and offenses, like a trance maybe, rather than and some stunning blow and that kind of thing, rather than just storming your way through. Now, amusingly enough, I was on one of my legendary characters earlier, trying to find one of the purple named rares in this wilderness. I succeeded in doing so, and I thought, flipping heck, this thing's hitting hard, and why can't I heal here, and what's going on here? And I'd accidentally gone in there on Reaper 1 instead of on normal. to this purple name, and an epic battle ensued. I did manage to prevail, but I don't recommend taking on those purple names unless you're well, at least two of you, and preferably a group, because yeah, that was rough. I think going in on normal, based on the one I've seen, you'd be fine on your own on any reasonable damage dealing build, but on Reaper, yeah, that could be quite tough. So we're just gonna go. This is Reaper on Legendary, by the way. The Heroic, I think, are a bit more forgiving. I'm just gonna go and try and show you. The first possible purple name is located. That's the main entrance there. Obviously, it's located quite close. But what I want you to see, if you haven't seen it already, the surroundings. It's miles away from the gloomy, struggling to even see where you're going Underdark that I can remember. I really, really am not a fan of that chain, the original. But this, I mean, this is like the Feywild equivalent of Underdark, isn't it? There's some vibrant colours, and if I can just show you the main section here, look at this. Tell me you're not impressed by that. One thing people have mentioned is the relative scarcity of the opponents dotted around the area. Thanks for that. And I do agree with that. So if you're trying to do slayers and things in here, I don't think that would go too well. But just look at this. This is what you call an eye candy rich environment. I'm loving that. Of course, now I've gone completely off on a tangent, and I'm not going towards the rare that I was planning to show you, but this is an indication as well of what you can expect inside the quest. This lush environment, just nicely crafted, colourful. I'm a big fan. The quests themselves, by the way, I've done, I think, all but 4. I think there's a 5th one that isn't available at the moment for some reason. Maybe it's the conclusion of the chain, or maybe they haven't implemented it yet. But there's some engaging mechanics in there. There's one like the cards quest, Pilgrim's Peril, with that shield mechanic in there. You've got to take down the Vrox who are offering the shield to the other opponents, and to not do so would be tantamount to suicide. So you've got to think a bit about what you're doing. That's quite nice. There's one or two interesting little boss mechanics. There's a beholder who engages you and then runs off and then engages you again, and a little bit like one of the ones in what's it called, that one in Necro 4 with the two brothers. I can't remember what the quest is called, but it's nicely done anyway. I haven't run across anything yet that I thought was overly long or overly complex. They're just nice, the quests. I'm quite chuffed with them. Do you need it for loot if you've got the recent expansions? Absolutely not. If you are not a fan of, say, Desert Sands, and you struggle for content around that sort of early teens in heroic leveling, then maybe you might like this, because they're all 11 as far as I know. So it could be a nice alternative, especially as Ravenloft is 10, 11, 12, isn't it? It's not one level. So, I mean, that's what I've done here. I've done most of Ravenloft, and then I've come straight in here. But then I typically don't level with a potion, so I need more content to level than do most people. Size-wise, I'm a big fan. Again, this is much more akin to Lamordia Wilderness than it is to the monster that was Mistranna. I just can't see as there was a need to do that, to have people just running miles and miles and miles, and with no real teleporters either. I can't see as there are any teleporters in here at all, but as you'll see here, there's like a central area, and the quests are all in a sort of a circle round. Most, if not all, are easily accessible. The ones that aren't, you'll see these little statue things down at the bottom, and you just click the statue, and it teleports you up to the quest entrance. So I've not run into anything like, Desert Sands, where you're pissing about for hours just trying to find the location to change a flame, for instance. Nothing like that. So yeah, well impressed with it so far. Let's try to go back and show you the thing I was gonna take you to. I think it's there. There's a really good map, by the way. I don't know how to flick screens and show you what's on the other screen, otherwise I would do so. But the wiki already has a nice map of what's it called, this area, the Dark Lake, showing you the locations of rares and mega rares, as it calls them. But just look at these luminous. I must say, I'm well impressed with it. I'm even fitting in because this is a bit luminous as well, isn't it? Now, come on, get with the program. Where are we supposed to be here? I think we're almost there, aren't we? Oh, there it is, Fungal Pit. So that's where one of the bosses, the rare bosses, is hiding, and you can tell he's there from the chest. And this is another decent mechanic from this they're a bit like the burrowing scorpions, I suppose, these little dog things, or what do they call them, bull pups or something. But it makes them quite difficult to take on. This one, you have to sort of park yourself in front of it to get it to stop doing what it's doing and actually engage you. You see it disappears regularly and has a real tendency to knock you over. It's got one or two special attacks which, if you pay attention to the things on the floor like that, you can avoid easily enough. But then just disappears again. Come on, come back. We've got our boost running here just for you. Now, as far as I can tell, the collectible currency in here, which is these abyssal gems, maybe I was just lucky or unlucky, but I got the same, I think it was 5 for doing it on Legendary Reaper as I did for doing Legendary Normal. Maybe I was just very lucky on the normal and very unlucky on the Reaper, I don't know, but it really doesn't seem to make too much of a difference. So if you're after collecting these, then I would say do it on normal, unless you're in a decent group. The use for those, as far as I can ascertain, this is another nice thing about the pack. Whether any of the stuff is any good and worth going through the work for is another matter, but it's resurrecting old items that have long since lost their luster in the game, like the Drow Piwafwi, and allowing you to make legendary versions of this stuff, complete with sun and moon augment slots. So it might be worth a little look, at least. Let's get ourselves out of here. I wanted to close by showing you a random quest. Let's go over here. I quite like this invis thing that the Dwergar get in their tree, just for avoiding things in the wilderness areas. I'm obviously using the Sword of Shadow now, but up until 10, I was using a Carnifex, so I had all these, I was making full use of all this side of the tree, and also the fact that, well, still am using that. I've got Carnifex, you can see, as my swap weapon, and rather than using a ferrocrystal one, any ooze or anything that comes up, I just swap to the Carnifex, knowing that the axe is immune to damage, which is quite nice. I'm getting sidetracked again here, wanting to show you all this. Just look at this. I think as well, I must say, I was in two minds whether I would even bother, because I really disliked the first Underdark thing that much. In fact, it was a long time before I was even relatively comfortable journeying around it. Are we even going closely? Yeah, we are, by some miracle. But no, this is completely different. Well impressed with it. Hopefully I've picked a half decent quest here. The price of an egg. Which one's this? A secure. Yeah, it's a good quest, this one. Well, I've honestly, hand on heart, I've yet to run into one that I'm thinking, you know, I would use shards or something to skip this one. No, nothing like that. There are. It's mostly on a legendary character I've done them. There are 3 or 4, as I said, I haven't yet
You see a
seen.
Dwergar up ahead.
But
your contact, no doubt.
if you're at all into the, you know, just the look of the thing, and the having the be like nice immersive adventures, then you'd be hard pushed to find nicer than this. People in the forum are saying it's probably on a par for the best one, or it's the best ones. To me, Ravenloft was the best, and this is kind of pushing that. So that's how good it is in many people's eyes.
Your contact waves to you frantically. Something's wrong. Bromner says he has a shipment of goods that can be bartered
Okay,
with
so we've got to go and find
to obtain a purple worm egg. Unfortunately, that shipment is in Bromner's caravan, and his caravan was
it's just a
ambushed by the
standard
drow in the
two-handed
northern
fighting
passageway.
dragon lord just for leveling. I'm only doing 1 to 20 with it. Ooh, that's an interesting one. People just coming out of the side passage surprising you. I'm ashamed to say that happened. Oh, I've got no true sight, so this guy's going to be a pain. So I really should have... oh, I haven't got access to Rana yet, have I? I don't think the Myconoid... I can show you the heroic Myconoid. So there you go. He's got Cure Serious, Res, Freedom, and those spores. I'll just show you those quickly. They just go down in an AoE on the ground, and if you stand in there, or if they stand in there, they get hurt by it. If we stand in there, we get healed. So particularly if you don't have the Rana ones from Mythrana, I would say it's a compelling reason to go for these. If you do use hirelings reasonably often, I tend to avoid them wherever possible, but they are definitely among the best that you could find. Loving the AoE stun on the two-hander. And of course the tactic things on a Dragon Lord recharge that much faster as well, so the stun comes up quite nicely.
You found the shattered remains of Bromner's caravan, as well as several drow matching the description of the ambushes.
Oh, blurry. My god, okay. I should be... No, I don't think I could use scrolls of true seeing. Yeah, this is a pain, isn't it? as I've mentioned previously, the part of the family,
You are
that
able to retrieve the
the
missing
neck
goods.
piece that's
Return to
part of the
Bromner near
family
the
set
entrance for further
has that
instructions.
true sight on it, so my pain will soon be at an end here. The crafting, the new Canith crafting, by the way, the crafting nodes now, on any legendary quest, have started dropping the new stuff that will enable you to do the higher level recipes if you're wanting to push yourself up to around 400 and over on the Canith crafting. I don't know why I tried to pick up a spell thing there. Now, am I supposed to be going... Yeah, I'm supposed to be going back to speak to the guy. Oh, for a DDO.
Bromner explains that the shipment that you recovered is for Strong. Deliver the goods, and he might be willing to
Okay,
part
so we're
with a
going
purple
down
worm
this
egg.
way.
There's just one small complication. The caverns between you and
There
Strong
always
are
is a
filled
small
with purple worm
complication, isn't there?
hatchlings.
As I've already mentioned with the Durgar series we're on with, I'm far too precious with the dragon breaths, and that causes me to run into trouble with the charges of the trance. I need to be throwing them in all the time. Ooze, I wasn't paying attention. Need to swap the weapon when it's ooze. That's something else I was going to say. There are several quests where there are absolute piles and piles of one in particular, there are piles of ooze. So you do need either some kind of immunity on your weapon or a swap that will not take damage, or a castery friend to deal with them.
This large chamber seems empty.
Yeah,
Eerily
appearances can be
empty.
deceptive
The
though, can't
floor
they?
reverberates, and a purple worm bursts through the chamber floor.
Oh, look at all this stuff. Yeah, there's quite a bit of burrowing mechanic in this, between those, what are they called, bullpup, and these worms. Those dogs in particular, they can burrow along so you can't hit them, and then suddenly they surface and they've got you on the floor and you still can't hit them. Now then, why haven't... is there something that's not been killed here? There must be. Ah, okay. Yeah, generally speaking, when there's a closed passage, it's that you've got something to kill that you haven't dealt with. I don't think I've chosen the most eye candy of quests, but even so, I mean, these pulls are done quite nicely. The opponents, the way they move around and attack, it's not just bog standard stuff. That's been another comment that I've seen
Fomorians sit
several times.
comfortably in front
They're
of a
not
crackling
just
fire,
sat there in large
seemingly
packs
unfazed.
either, as has been
It makes
levelled
no
at
move
previous
to attack
content.
as you approach.
You know, the likes of the Dragonborn, the two Dragonborn quests in the marketplace. It's just from one pack to another pack to another. So this is quite different in that regard.
Strunk gives you permission to gather an egg from the chamber, but he warns you that his friends are grumpy because they haven't had their special snack. To reach the egg chamber in one piece, you'll need to put their treat
I
inside a
thought there might
specific
be. I
well.
thought you might just
That will
decide to do
detract the
something in
purple
here.
worms.
You got me with that one earlier, not this time. Brian, you could do me a favour and pretend you didn't see that the gear was worn. It's been worn for my last 3 play sessions, so I'm guessing it's almost broken. Yeah, oh god. I promise you, if I'm lucky enough to get through this quest unscathed, I'll go and repair it. I'll make it priority. Trying to trip a worm. Well done, matey. Well done. High IQ on this channel. See, I have now run out of trances, partly due to the fact I was using the odd one in the wilderness area. But that's something I still regret. I know in the past we used to use the Reaper, the start of any Reaper quest, to recharge mana and other things, didn't we? And that seems to have gone now. Oh, it has gone now, hasn't it? The mana side is a pain as well, because especially if you've got the wilderness on Reaper and you're doing a bit of slayering as you're going to the quests, and then you find yourself like 1,000 mana down when you start the quest, or you find yourself not doing any damage because you've switched off all your metas to preserve the mana through the wilderness area. I just wish they'd kept that. I guess some people were using it as an abuse or something, but it was such a handy convenience thing. Go into any Reaper quest and recharge everything. Oh, we've got a trance back. I'm still not doing the dragon breath enough to trigger the trances.
Looks out over a huge cavern where several purple worms thrash hungrily. Then you notice a chute or well nearby. This appears to be the place where these worms are fed, and the place where you should.
This is going to give you a nice example of this dog type of creature in here.
Fills the cavern. The sound of the worms tunneling down in eager pursuit of their favorite snack. The area is a bit safer now. From worms, anyway.
Bullet, it's called. Have I pronounced that right?
Explodes from the ground. It's not a purple worm. The massive beast crashes in its death throes. A wall collapses, revealing the egg chamber.
Believe me, when you go on Legendary and you've got a squishy character and these things are harassing you, it's not good times. Where am I supposed to be going? Through there? Ah, that's it. That's the end, isn't it? The egg. Happy days.
At long last, you've secured the purple worm egg that Vizerin needs.
Oh, so you also get these abyssal gems from doing the quests themselves, so you've no need to go specifically into the purple rares unless you want to do. Although I did find... Where's my example of a rare item from there? There. That's come out of the one I showed you earlier, the purple named thing. So they're not terrible. There's nothing there, I don't think, that isn't in, you know, things like Lamordia and available earlier. So again, I don't see a compelling need. There are on the legendary side some minor artifacts, and I'm led to believe that unlike in Mythdrana, you can actually get these minor artifacts in the saga reward list for completing the chain. So they should be, if you see one that you like the look of, they should be easier, significantly easier to obtain than the Mithrana, like Autumn Equinox and that kind of stuff is. Any of you wondering about the number of slots? They've got 5 slots, haven't they? Just like the Mithrana and later stuff have those artifacts, 5 filigree slots. So yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed by this content-wise. Experience, I think you could say is, I wouldn't go overboard. I wouldn't say it's crazy good. It's probably on a par with other expansions. It's not a reason in itself to get the pack. I would say if you like the look of what you see, if you are interested in the healing higher type, if you've traditionally had a bit of a dead spot around the early teens in heroic leveling, and you maybe don't like Desert Sands and you don't like Lord's March Plaza quests, then this could be a solution to that for you. But I would, well, I would and will do it just for it's just a nice experience. I'll definitely be running through here each life. I just think it's a pretty awesomely done wilderness, and the quests themselves are engaging and have been, set out just nicely with the graphical side of things too. So for me, there's nothing not to like. I think one of the very few criticisms I've seen of it so far, and again, this is it's probably a very small minority of the player base who are going to run into this. People who are saying Reaper 10 isn't difficult enough based on the fact they've completed it with their group in the first evening. Now, most public groups are going to be a mishmash of random things. I'm thinking most guild groups, you're going to have a more organized, maybe you'll run with a tank and more perhaps dedicated roles, a tank and a healer and 4 damage dealers, for instance, which I would suggest would do a lot better than a random group would typically. I don't think too many of us are going to run into issues with the difficulties in Reaper 10, because I think the majority of us won't be setting foot too often in that difficulty anyway. And if that's the only criticism, I'll happily take it. I think it's time I wasn't here. I just wanted to show you a quick look round and a bit of a summary of the some of the more interesting changes that have taken place. I will be back shortly to continue our Dwergar adventures. Until then, have fun with the new pack if you've got it. If you haven't, hopefully some of the bits and pieces I've shown here will give you an idea as to whether or not it might be for you. Thanks very much as always for looking, and I will speak to you next time. Take care.